People often ask me, why does potato bake always look and taste so good at a restaurant? Today we're going to talk about how you can make it at home just like it's made in a restaurant. It's an easy dish to make, but there are 5 critical steps you need to follow to make it look great and taste delicious every time. As always, once it's made, we'll plate it up so you can see how it can be used. Let's get straight into it. These are the ingredients I'll be using today. Waxy potatoes, homegrown leek, garlic, fresh thyme, butter and oil for frying, fresh cream, and of course some salt. My first step to making a great potato bake is to use the correct type of potato. You need to use waxy potatoes. They hold their shape and have a firm bite. Floury potatoes won't work. You'll find they go all mushy and fall apart when being plated, and we don't want that. The second important step is to slice the potatoes thinly and evenly. I find it's easiest to do this using a mandolin. It keeps all the slices uniform and it makes it so quick and easy. We want them thin, but not so thin that you can see through them. If the pieces are all different thicknesses, you won't get that professional looking layered potato. If you don't have a mandolin, use a sharp knife and slice them as thinly as you're able to, and try to keep them all the same thickness. With any potato bake, there's always a saucy component. This is what adds the real flavour. I always like to add leek to this. I love the flavour the leek adds. One thing with homegrown leeks is they tend to bring half the soil from the garden in along with them. So I tend to slice them, soil and all, and then give them a good rinse under the tap to strain out any excess soil hiding between the layers. I'm going to sweat the leek in a little butter and oil until it's soft and fragrant. Adding in some crushed garlic adds a lovely flavour too. And I'll also add in the fresh thyme. This is one of my favourite herbs to add to any creamy, oniony, garlicky dishes. You could use fresh rosemary here too, but if I have the option, I go for thyme. Oh, it smells so delicious. Once this is all soft, it's time to add in the cream. I don't usually measure this. I just put in a good amount and then let it reduce until it has almost all disappeared. This is probably about 1 cupful. No one ever said creamy potatoes are healthy, did they? And cream is something that really adds to the flavour. While that's bubbling away, we can get onto the third important step, which is to prepare the baking tin. You may have never seen a tin prepared in this way before. First I'm going to lightly spray it with oil spray, and then I'll put in some tin foil. I want to have a bit of overhang, but my tin foil is too small, so I need to join 2 pieces to create one big piece. This looks a bit awkward in this little tin. Then we need to do the same with some non-stick baking paper. You'll see how this works in a bit, but the tin foil and baking paper create a sealed enclosure to help steam the potato while it's baking. Let's get back to the pan. The cream looks like it's reducing and thickening up nicely. When I drag my spatula through, you can see it isn't rejoining. This is how you can tell if it's reduced enough. Make sure you don't forget to season it, and don't be scared to slightly over-season it to compensate for the potatoes. Here's my 4th important step. Don't use too much liquid. Look at the small amount of liquid we're adding to this huge bowl of sliced potatoes. It doesn't look very much, does it? But trust me, it will be perfect. Being waxy potatoes, they already have a high moisture content, so if we add too much more liquid, it will end up too wet and we won't be able to cut and portion it nicely. Give it a good mix around. It honestly works best to do this with your hands. Make sure you get the cream between all the potato layers. Then we can put it into our prepared tin. It's easy to forget about the corners and end up with not much substance there, which is really annoying when you come to cutting it. Then we take another piece of baking paper and foil and create a lid by folding over the edges. Having this sort of double layer creates a mini oven environment, steaming and baking the potato at the same time. It also makes it so much easier to handle once it's out of the oven and cooled. Now it's ready for the oven. My oven is set at 180 degrees Celsius, 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and it'll bake for approximately 40 minutes to an hour. To check how it's getting on, you can stick a skewer right through the paper. It's done when the skewer inserts without any resistance. We're cooking it, but not browning it at this stage. Once it comes out of the oven, you can leave it to cool a little, and then comes step number 5. Press it in the fridge for several hours, or ideally overnight. Find another tin or tray that fits as snugly as possible into the one you're already using, and then weigh it down with some cans or some jars you already have in your fridge. This will compact the potato and press it into a solid, sturdy slab. So here's our potato, ready to cut and portion. Pressing it really helps with this step. If you're going for a more rustic meal, don't worry about squaring up the edges. But if you're going for a classier finish, trim off the edges and then you can portion it. I'm just cutting squares today, but you could cut triangles or rectangles if you wanted to. Now this is ready to go back in the oven to be reheated and brown up before it's served. Let's put a piece in now so we can plate up a meal and see how it looks. Put our nice creamy mustard chicken here ready to plate up, and I can smell that potato. Let's have a look if it's ready. Here it is, all beautifully browned up. Doesn't it look delicious? The other components I've got today are green beans, salad greens, and roasted red capsicum. I've put the potato slightly off centre to leave some room for the chicken. I want to create height with the chicken, but we'll just have to go with how it will actually sit. I'm trying to get it to stand as high as possible and overlap slightly. Then I'll spoon around some of the creamy mustard sauce. This provides a lot of the flavour for this dish, so I don't want to be too skimpy. I'll position the beans here on the side. I love the stark colour contrast of the bright green and the dark coloured plate. Here's our salad greens. I'll lightly dress them with a little dollop of white wine vinegar and a drizzle of oil. I'm going to put them here on top of the potato. Lastly, I'll add a few piles of finely sliced roasted red capsicum. This is just a very basic idea to demonstrate what's possible with a portion of scalloped potato, but the options are endless. It works with so many different dishes. If you like this video, there's another one here I think you might like too. See you over there. Happy potato baking!